Hi everybody, it's Az here from Heel vs Babyface. Now this week in both Europe and American Oceanics, patch 6.2.3 dropped, and this is the patch that I personally have dubbed the distraction patch. And the reason why I've called it this is it's simply been put into the game to turn your head, to delay you, to distract you, see where it comes from now, from the fact that there's actually no new content arriving to the World of Warcraft until Legion hits in summer of next year. But is there anybody that this patch does benefit? Well, yeah, there is a demographic, and they're called raiders. They will certainly benefit from the item level increases. If they are having difficulty knocking down a boss currently, they haven't quite got enough in their arsenal to do so, then these item level upgrades, especially if they're applied to things like weaponry, are going to give them the extra damage output, the extra health pools that they need to knock these down and then move on to the next bosses. Unfortunately though, raiders only make up a small proportion of the World of Warcraft community, and the same principle can't be applied to people that don't raid and only get themselves involved in external world content, because even in 695 Baleful gear right now, which has been available since 6.2's release, you can easily cope with any mob out there. And I'm talking realistically, I'm not talking about running off and trying to solo world bosses. You're not Blood DKs, you know. No, I'm talking about things like the Throne of Kil'jaeden and the elite Legion mobs which are out there. You can go there in your 695 Baleful stuff and take care of them without too much difficulty whatsoever. So realistically, just exactly what does patch 6.2.3 bring to the table? Well, it's a reward patch. It's there for heroic and mythic raiders that can defeat Archimonde to get the Moose mount. It's the introduction of the Cataclysm time walking dungeons, because apparently we do need to do dungeons again that we've done thousands of times before, and with it they bring a quartermaster and another brass ring mount, the infinite dragonflight one that can drop from any of the time walking bosses. There's just a very small percentage chance of it happening. So with time walking being a bonus event and therefore only open during certain amounts of time, plus a really low percentage chance of the mount dropping, you've got something for people who are going to remain subscribed to the game to just try and hit and grab. So why the elongated opening to this video? This is not what the title says it's about. It's about content versus reward. Well, the reason why is patch 6.2.3 is a prime example of what I want to talk about today. There is nothing at all in this patch, regardless of whether or not it's the item increase for the raiders or whether it's the quartermaster for the Cataclysm dungeons. Nothing there is brand new. We're not doing any physically new dungeons. We're not going over to a completely different area of the map which has never been opened before, like a Farallon or somewhere like that, or just somewhere that Blizzard themselves have decided to make up. No, every piece of the reward system around this patch evolves around existing content. And it's also not a video about, well, Blizzard had plenty of time to create more content, they didn't, blah, blah, blah. No, nothing like that whatsoever. A recent comment came out where somebody from Blizz said, people don't necessarily need new content. They need to be better rewarded with the existing content that they have to do again. And this is a philosophy that I absolutely 100% disagree with. You see, I'm of the mindset that everybody, doesn't matter whether or not you're the most casual of players or the most hardcore of players, I believe that everybody has what I'd like to call a tolerance of content. And a tolerance of content to me is, where is your breaking point when you're doing something? No matter how fun and exciting a piece of content can be, it will always have its breaking points for every single solitary player. Now, because I've called it tolerance, the reason why I've said this as well is because each piece of content will have a different tolerance level. So the more fun and exciting a piece of content is, the higher the tolerance level of people that will actually do it before they start to drop off. The more boring and dull a piece of content is, the shorter the level of tolerance people will have before they stop. So, if we look at something that was really fun to do in one of Blizzard's expansions, let's look at Trows of the Thunder King. And the reason why I love to use Trows of the Thunder King as an example is because it had so much going on in such a short period of time. Time being a very important key here. You see, it was only ever 5 minutes long. You were on a 5-minute timer from start to finish. You couldn't go beyond 5 minutes. There weren't any multipliers to be added on to elongate your stay. The best player had 5 minutes, the worst player had 5 minutes to go into the Trows of the Thunder King and raid as much loot as they possibly could. Now, you could go out of that place with multiple rewards. A big wad of cash. Normally, you'd get between 300 to 500 gold, no problem, per run, which you could do once a week. But on top of that, you could also walk away with gear. You could also walk away with tokens that will give you bonus rolls. You could also walk away with reputation tokens as well to help you out there. And also walk away with items that would allow you to do quests around the Isle of Thunder, which rewarded you heavily as well. I think they gave like 150 gold for completion of them, and they were doable once a week. So the Trows of the Thunder King ticked huge amounts of boxes when it came to a reward system. But bundled on top of that was its fun content. Because you were up against the clock, because you did have traps here, there and everywhere, because you did try and avoid mobs or engage mobs in combat but be as quickly as possible in dispatching them, there was so much going on that you were always excited. You got modifiers, you got speed boosters, this booster levitates, yada yada yada. There was a load going on. Fun, exciting, and a heavy reward system. So the Trows of the Thunder King had a long tolerance level, but that tolerance level still came to an end. No matter how fun it was, no matter how rewarding it was, they eventually got a point during Mr. Pandaria that instead of doing it every single solitary week, you started to miss a week here and there. And then you went back to it a couple of weeks later, and then maybe it elongated 3, 4, 5 weeks passed by until you did your next set. But you would always return, and you would always return because of the heavy reward and because of the heavy fun element to it. But if you apply the same theory to content which is not fun, not exciting, or content which we've done so many times already that it just grates you when you go in, you're just like, oh, you know, it's nice to see this area. Oh yeah, I remember how it used to be. And your brain starts to kick in. Your brain is a very complex tool and a very clever tool. And your brain starts to say, oh God, remember when you did this 100 times in Cataclysm? Remember when you did this 100 times in Wrath of the Lich King or the Burning Crusade? And no matter how much fun you may have had in a dungeon to start with, yeah, I'm talking about time walking here, it grated you. Your brain will start to realise and start to muscle memorise how things were back in those days. So maybe you'll get away with a run or two before things start to really kick home. So going into something like time walking to me doesn't feel fun, doesn't feel rewarding, and doing them over and over again to try and get the time walking badges to purchase the toys, I personally don't feel incentivized to do so. I don't feel as if, no matter the kind of reward that it seems to offer, I'm going to be that kind of player that will say to myself, well, yes, I will mindlessly go through this and do it until I have 5,000 time walking tokens and then I'll buy them out. No. I'll probably run one time walking dungeon when the event comes on, and the reason why I run that one singular one is to get to the final boss and get the quest item which gives you the 500 tokens. And then I just say to myself, I do that over 10 of the time walking events and I'll get myself one of the nice mounts. Well, there is only one nice mount. But the fact of the matter is, when Trows of the Thunder King came out, it was brand spanking new content. When the time walking stuff came out, It wasn't. It was old existing content which we'd done hundreds of times before. And it didn't matter how many licks of paint you put on it, how many spins when you described it, or what rewards that you attached to it. It still was what it was, old content. This is exactly why Blizzard themselves say that they want to reduce the time between expansions and get more expansions out quicker, because new expansions bring subscribers back to the game and patches don't. Well, I think they've got that partially right. New expansions absolutely bring new people back to the game, and it's very easy to see why. When you buy a new expansion, you're expecting to go to a new area, to level up farther, to go into new dungeons, have new questings, have new raids, have new endgame content and mounts and blah, 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 blah. They want all of that, and you know that it's coming from a brand new 0.0 patch. But I'm not massively convinced about the second part of that. You just have to look at the power of patch 5.2 and how it absolutely brought to a halt the subscription losses that Mists of Pandaria had suddenly started to hemorrhage. And that was because of how good patch 5.2 was, how much there was on offer, and the diversity of the content in there. It was just sandwiched between two very average patches, 5.1 and 5.3. And 5.4, of course, just went on for so goddamn long. All the good work at the start of it had pretty much been undone. Now, don't get me wrong here, people. I am not for one moment trying to insinuate that Blizzard are pushing patch 6.2.3 as a major patch. They never have. That's why it's patch 6.2.3 and it's not patch 6.3 or patch 6.4 or whatever. But we can still apply the same logic to all the patches, and there aren't many, in Warlords of Draenor. Patch 6.1 brought nothing new to the game. Blizzard repackaged the existing content as 6.0 and tried to palm it off as fresh. It didn't work. People are too intelligent, they're too savvy for that. Then patch 6.2 came along, and people very quickly worked out that the command table was exactly the same as the shipyard. There was no difference whatsoever. And that time walking were just dungeons that people had done over and over and over again 100 times before. It's nothing fresh. Even Tanaan Jungle, this brand new zone, all the contents within it were just existing 6.0 contents, the AP dailies, the awful reputation grinds. So the only brand spanking new thing that really came along during the lifespan of Warlords of Draenor was the Hellfire Citadel raid. Now, people have got to be given more credit. This just proves that you can't compound reward upon reward upon reward and give things a lick of paint and expect people to accept that, because they've clearly demonstrated that they won't. If you're going to put new dungeons into the game, that's exactly what they have to be. New dungeons. New bosses, new rewards, new experiences for that player base. If there is a new zone placed in a World of Warcraft expansion, then people have got to go there and experience something that they haven't in any of the other zones. It's got to be unique. Blizzard's plan in Warlords of Draenor to throw rewards at you left, right and centre at the expense of content absolutely 100% backfired. People would rather take content above reward, and the subscription numbers alone speak volumes about that. And with Legion coming up sometime next year, Blizzard have to learn from this immediately and not follow that philosophy. Patches 7.1, 7.2 and hopefully 7.3 and 7.4 have to be unique. They have to offer a fresh experience to what they've had so far in the game. They can't rely on picking stuff from 7.0 and try and repackage it by throwing additional rewards on top and saying, hey folks, guess what? New content. People will see through that like a window. It will be so obvious and numbers will plummet once again. So there we go. I totally believe content will win up against reward every single solitary day of the week, and I'd really like to hear what you guys and gals have got to say in the comment section down below. But before I finish this vid, I have to give a huge shout out to my channel sponsors, Yaktronics. Yaktronics are a custom PC peripheral company that deal with mice, keypads, as well as headsets. And there is a full range of heel versus babyface products, with up to 40% off the list price and an additional 7% off if you use the promotional code BABYFACE. This is the perfect opportunity to get you some custom merch. Even if it's not me, you can have your own gamer tag, clan tag, or whatever put on there too. So go on over to the website. Link and promotional code is in the description box down below. And I seriously hope that you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links are also in the description down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care, everybody. Bye-bye.